Hi there, welcome to Alpine Bravo. My name's Brendan. This is my channel for all things Microsoft Flight Simulator. So a little bit different in this video today. What I wanted to do was show you my Flight Simulator setup, show you the physical layout of it, the ergonomics of it, and all the various different peripherals, things that I've used to create my Flight Simulator setup. And the reason I wanted to do this isn't to show you, hey, look what a cool setup I've got, but just to talk through some of the concepts, particularly ergonomics, and what you can do to make your flight simulation experience a smoother, better one, because just like with real flying, the kind of physical layout of your controls makes a big difference to your flight simulator experience. Now, I started off, well, I mean, if I go all the way back, for many years, the only peripheral I had was a joystick with a throttle axis on it and a twist. And for many years, that's all I simulated on and it was the same when I started with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. All I had was a gaming laptop and my 20-year-old Logitech joystick. But I loved the simulator so much that I soon found myself getting peripherals, adding peripherals, and it's been quite a journey, and I continue to develop it. And I'm always looking for ways to try and improve my flight simulation experience. But one thing I did realize very quickly, certainly if you're wanting to fly on Flightsim and other follow real world procedures, we have to do things quickly, then being able to control the aircraft through physical buttons and controls is a much superior way of simming. Moving the mouse around inside the virtual cockpit is slow. It can be hard to hit the target controller button. It can be really frustrating trying to control the autopilot, particularly if it's turbulent and things moving around, or you drop your mouse at the wrong time. These can be really frustrating things. So my overall philosophy was to try and get as much of the control of the aircraft out of the virtual cockpit and onto physical controls. So basically, I don't have to use the mouse or the keyboard very much when I'm flying. And generally, that's been pretty successful. And there's lots of different things, hardware peripherals and software peripherals that can help you achieve that. So that's the overall philosophy that I use. The second part of my philosophy is that I needed flexibility. I like flying lots of different types of aircraft. I didn't want to build a home cockpit just for a single type of aircraft, and there are some wonderful simmers out there who've brilliant projects, have invested huge amounts of time building these amazing home cockpits, and you can get some really, really good peripherals from the Real Sim Gear. Make G1000 panels, which are just like the real thing. They're amazing, and one day, who knows? But it does. The downside to that is that it does tie you more to flying a particular kind of aircraft, and I didn't want that. I'm not having to practice for flying say for example, if I've had a real G1000 aircraft of my own, I might want to have a simulator at home that allowed me to practice the procedures on the G1000, so I'd be more proficient when I go flying in my real aircraft. That's not the case for me. I'm looking for a setup that allows me to change between different kinds of aircraft. So flexibility was the second main consideration for me. Cost, of course, is always going to be a factor. And again, as I say, I started off with a laptop and a joystick. It's taken me many years to build up what you're about to see, bit by bit. It just didn't happen magically overnight. I had to save and make choices about what to invest in, and with a little bit of thought and ability to do some basic carpentry, you can make a lot of little corrections and improvements to your setup yourself without having to spend a lot of money. So let's get into it and show you what my simulation setup looks like.
So here's an overview of my Flightsim setup. And what I'm going to do is go through each part of it step by step, but really talking about the ergonomics of it and all the little things I've done to make life a bit more comfortable and easier for myself when I sim. So the first thing I want to talk about is not my PC or anything like that, but what this is all built on, which is the desk. It's quite hard to see because there's just so much stuff on it. And it's also quite hard to see because it has a glass top. But the nice thing about this desk, which I had before I started building this simulation setup, was that it has the glass top, but underneath it has a shelf. And that shelf proved really useful and good for mounting the yoke and the throttle quadrant, plus various other extensions that I've added to it. And that ergonomically was better because the yoke was at a more natural position. I wasn't having to raise my arms up to get to it. I could control it with my elbows bent at a nice comfortable 90 degrees. Not every desk is like that, of course, so you can get ways of, you can actually buy ways of things that will allow you to hang the honeycomb alpha yoke under a desk, another desk, but you can always, if you don't want to spend money on things like that, or you have a different kind of yoke or controller, then you can easily, using a bit of plywood and some screws, make your own arrangements. And you can actually see here that I have with the yoke and the throttle quadrant, I've built extensions basically to the desk. What they do is that they extend that lower shelf outwards so I can mount the yoke out of the front edge of the glass, and that allows me to then also mount these panels directly on top of the yoke and the throttle quadrant, which then makes space for these screens. Now, I did find that I had to further modify the desk as well. I've had to elevate the glass top. That was to allow the rather chunky honeycomb alpha to fit underneath. It just wouldn't fit otherwise. And that also changed and had a knock-on effect on the height of the desk overall needed to be at, and I had to raise it as well. The brackets that are used to hold the alpha yoke in position, I was finding that they were bumping my tops of my thighs and my knees against them, so the desk needed to be higher because I couldn't really make my chair much lower without then that starting to make it uncomfortable to use the rudder pedals. So to think about all the different ergonomic aspects of it. Glass top was nice as well because it allows me to see what's going on with the cabling behind all these devices. There's a lot of cabling there, but then it's a little bit harder to keep clean. Shows up all the dust. I mean, as I say, not a lot of space left on the desktop itself. I mean, behind these screens here, I've just got some storage there for cleaning cloths and spare levers and things like that for the honeycomb. And the only little bit of space I've got here is in the corner for my coffee cup, which is very important. So that's the desk, and to say getting the right kind of desk is probably pretty fundamental and where you really want to start with planning your setup. And you can obviously get desks now that adjust height. They're really probably the best. I've not seen any that have got a lower shelf to them though. That would be nice to see. And all of that will help you get a comfortable position, because if you're going to be spending hours and hours sitting at the sim, which if you're an avid simmer, you will, you really do want to get the ergonomics of it right. It will make your flying better but more comfortable, and you want to be avoiding neck and shoulder pain and strain, lower back strain. All these things can start to happen if you spend a lot of time simming. Okay, so I'll move away from the desk now and just talk about the screen setup that I've got. So I've got my main monitor, 4K, with a track IR camera mounted on top of it. Secondary monitor, just a little bit smaller, which I use showing Streamlabs at the moment, but I would normally have Volanta or the likes. There we go, there's Volanta up. And yeah, I'll use that for situational awareness, so Volanta, or if I'm on Flightsim, that's where I would have the vPilot window up there as well, and other software just to help all the peripherals that you use to support your flight simming if you're on PC. And then I have these two 11.5 inch monitors. These are pretty cheap. They're not touchscreen, they're just monitors plugged directly into the GPU slots on the PC. I think I had 5 GPU slots available, a mixture of HDMI and display port slots. So I did have to make sure I got the right cabling, but as you can see, these are very useful for displaying aircraft instruments. And what you can actually see here is I've popped out using Pop-Out Panel Manager the PFD1, MFD1 and MFD2 from the CRJ, which you can see in the background there. But I've also got, using another bit of software called Air Manager, got these virtual panels showing as well. So I've actually got the autopilot controls of the CJ4, I should say, above the main displays as it is in the aircraft, and I've also got the PFD control panel. I think that's the dedicated control panel that's called. And again, that's just allowing more immediate access. Now I control those with the mouse pointer. I can interact with those, but if these were touchscreens, I would be able to use the touchscreen functionality to also interact with and control all those dials and switches, which is a lot easier than trying to find them in the virtual cockpit. And the good thing is it allows you to keep your point of view, your focus on the main screen outside, so you can see what's going outside without having to shift it down, and you can lose situational awareness in high workload moments like takeoff and landing. So those are the screens that I've got. You'll notice that there are 2 other screens though, this one here and this one down here. Now these are both separate machines. They're both touchscreen tablet laptops. They're Windows-based machines, and I use this one here on the left exclusively to it's actually my normal laptop that I use for day-to-day stuff, but when I'm simming I bring it through and mount it here and use it exclusively for NavGraph charts, which is very, really helps with situational awareness, particularly when taxiing around airports. And this one here, this is a tablet again, and I've got it showing an app, a little freeware app that I got from GitHub, thanks to a tip from the Microsoft Flight Simulator official forums, that allows you to basically recreate the aircraft's CDU, data entry unit for the flight management system, and that is fantastic. It's so much easier to control the radios and all entering your flight plan, everything. This is a touch screen, and you can just interact with it through, as you can see, you just press the line select keys at the side there, and everything behaves exactly as it would. And it will play sounds as well. I just don't have that set up at the moment. And as I say, these are both separate machines, so one consideration is making sure that they have an adequate power supply when you're simming for a long time, otherwise the batteries will run out, and also making sure that you set the screen not to time out too quickly, either on power or battery, because that's quite annoying. In fact, I have it set up so that when I'm simming, the screens will never time out or go into screensaver or lock screen. Yeah. Okay, so that's all the different screens. What about the peripherals that we've got? Well, there's a few. I've already mentioned the Track IR, which I think is very good. I mean, I've looked into Tobii eye tracker as well, but I'm not sure where I'd put it, and whether, but then also they are a little bit expensive. And I do think the Track IR does the job well for me. But one of the first sort of sets of peripherals I got, started to get, were these Logitech panels, and I've got all three of them now. I started off with the Logitech multi-panel, which allowed me to control the autopilot. I've got the Logitech multi-switch, which gives you all sorts of useful buttons and switches, and then the Logitech radio panel. Now, I soon discovered, though, that using the inbuilt Logitech drivers, you were very limited, and it didn't work. In fact, it was the CJ4 with the working title mod, because it used custom code. The autopilot controller didn't work with that, and then I realized I needed separate driver software, and that's when I started using SPAD.next, which is a very powerful piece of software, and allows me to really get a lot of functionality out of all of these devices, and allows me to, across all the different aircraft that I fly, I can get all the key functions out of the virtual cockpit and onto some switch or dial here. And the good thing is, because I've got the multi-panel, that when I got the Honeycomb Bravo throttle quadrant, it's got lots of switches and buttons as well. And the autopilot control panel buttons here, I don't need them for controlling the autopilot, so I've got them doing other things. And you can see I've got a little label there, and this is for the CJ4. It's a little label that I've printed up and laminated, and it gives me, engine start controls and various controls, sort of things that I use quite often, and I don't want to have to try and do in the virtual cockpit. Other peripherals that I have, I've got a Xbox controller for operating the drone camera, and I also use that a lot when I'm doing scenery projects. It's very useful for that. Got a I did originally have a wireless one that I'd had for gaming, but it was kind of useless for Flightsim, because it would turn itself off and cause CTDs as well in the process. So I ended up getting this Turtle Beach wired one. I'm really happy with that. For audio, I've got, sitting under this baseball cap, which has got a Track IR sensor mounted on it, there is a Logitech headset, wireless headset with microphone, which I do use sometimes, but I find wearing it for long periods of time a bit uncomfortable, and was starting to give me a little bit of tinnitus as well. So I've moved to a smaller Plantronics little headset mic, which you would have seen me wearing in the intro video, which I'm using as well at the moment. That's just a lot more comfortable. Okay, other peripherals. Well, I have rudder pedals down here. And these are the Turtle Beach Velocity 1 rudder pedals. I find them excellent. I got them originally. I ordered a pair of Honeycomb Charlies, but they were never, after all the indications that all the problems at Honeycomb, I cancelled that order and ordered these instead. They came 2 days later, and I've been extremely happy with them. I'm really glad I didn't hang on waiting for the Charlies, because I doubt they'll ever come now. Yeah, great rudder pedals. I originally had a pair of Logitech rudder pedals. They were not great. I really noticed the difference when I upgraded to these. It was much easier to get fine control inputs. I have to say it was the same as well with the yoke. I originally had a Logitech yoke, Flight Pro, not good at all. I ended up actually modding the yoke. I took it to pieces and replaced the springs with rubber bands. That helped a little bit, but still made for actually quite a frustrating flying experience using it. The landings were not good. Other input controls, keyboard, a wireless keyboard, that's quite straightforward. And then what I have here is, I don't use a mouse, I use a trackball. I used to use a mouse, but I found that I didn't have enough desk space for obvious reasons, but also I'd often end up dropping the mouse, whereas with a trackball, I'm less likely to drop it. And particularly now, what I've done is I've mounted it onto a little knee board that I made myself with just some Velcro. I can take the trackball off if I want to, because it's just held in place with Velcro, and then I can clip that to my knee, and particularly when I'm GA flying and things like that, or helicopter flying, where it's all very hands-on, that's a much better way. But I did also make this extension here the other day to hold the tablet, but it also doubles up as a mouse platform as well. And that is just literally some pieces of wood screwed together and then screwed to the underside of the desk. It's pretty solid. And I also made some time ago this extension over here, which you can see, and it has a wooden prop to give it a bit more strength. And what I use that for is to mount a throttle when I'm flying a helicopter or a military jet, because I've got the Logitech X56 HOTAS setup, which is sitting here, and I can swap out the yoke for the stick and mount the throttle here on this side. I tend to leave the Bravo in place, but then I would also bring across the radio panel and mount that on top of the multi-switch, and that gives me a really good setup for helicopter flying when I'm using my right hand on the control, as opposed to when I'm flying with a yoke, I've got my left hand on the controls. What else? It's worth saying with all these peripherals that you do need to power them. And when I first started adding peripherals, I was getting CTDs, and then I realized what I needed to do was the cause of these CTDs was voltage or power fluctuations because of the draw. So I started investing in, so you can barely see it in there, but there's a Sarbin, I think that's 12 USB port, powered and good power supply. And I think the rule with USB hubs is that you always get something bigger than you think you need. Work out what you need and then double it, and then you'll be okay. Because you always seem to need more USBs, and they do. A lot of these peripherals will just not work well unless they've got good power supply. You can't rely on your motherboard from your PC or whatever to provide that. That's another important consideration. Lighting as well. I can see I've got a little light here, a little reading light that helps illuminate that panel. And I tried LED strips and things like that, but it was I didn't like it so much. Getting good lighting. is important. You can see that I've got the keyboard mounted on this. Let's pull the chair out of the way a little bit so you can see in here. On this little tray shelf holder thing that's on wheels, I can move it around. And you can see I also got this storage thing that can hang underneath it. Lots of pockets in it to keep my checklists and pens and bits and pieces, calculator can all go in there and keeps everything close to hand, neat and tidy. And all other little tips. So I've got a little whiteboard here that I use for making notes for my flight plan, take down ATC instructions, etc. A good selection of pens to do that, and I find that better than using bits of paper. And then I've got a clipboard there with paper checklist on it. Other little handy thing was I made this little mount for the yoke. All that is some Velcro and a bit of stiff cardboard and a little clip to hold, and I can put abbreviated checklists or other things on that, and again that keeps it very accessible right up front. So that's most of it. The final thing I need to turn to is the chair, which is pretty important. I'll just move back to get it in frame. So I've spent quite a bit of time getting an office chair that was comfortable for me, and that's the important thing, is you've got to work out what suits you, what's comfortable for you. You can definitely get quite bad lower back pain if you're in the wrong chair, or neck and shoulder pain. I was using a different chair for quite a while, and it on paper looked really comfortable. It was like a leather sort of high back chair, but it had fixed arms, and I found that it was causing me quite bad neck and shoulder pain as a result, because I was constantly sort of shrugging as I was sat in the chair using the mouse, and so it was ergonomically not that bad, not good for me at all. So I happily sold it and replaced it with this. The only other thing I've done is I've replaced the casters on this, so I've got casters now. These are hard floor casters rather than carpet casters, because I'm going to be replacing the carpet in here with the hard floor. But the main thing is that they're lockable. The two of them have got brakes on them. So what I do is have it unlocked most of the time, but when I'm actually flying and using the rudder pedals, I lock them in place so that I'm not, pushing the chair rather than operating the rudder pedals. And that really helps as well. It's amazing the difference that a little thing like that will make. So there we go. That's pretty much the setup. I can't think of anything else. I say, take me a long time to get it all together, and I'm still improving it all the time.
Okay, well, I hope you found all that interesting. If you've got any questions about anything that I've said, please post a comment. I'll try and do my best to answer it. Some of the applications that I mentioned, I'll provide links to. So SPAD Next is what I use to control all the peripherals, so the 3 Logitech panels, the Alpha and the Bravo, plus some other devices as well I control through SPAD Next, very powerful bit of software. The other one I mentioned was Air Manager, and that's what I use to have the virtual switch panels and instrument panels also projected onto the monitors. I'd say those were the two main. I also mentioned Pop-Out Panel Manager. That's a freeware it's a freeware application you can get from flightsim.to. That it's really good if you're popping out screens and instruments using the right Alt key and click. That you should get Pop-Out Panel Manager. It's a great application. I can't praise it enough, and it's amazing that it's free as well. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Hope you found it interesting, and let me know if you liked it or if you have any questions. Until the next time, see ya.